Harper Audio presents Starter House by Sonja Condit. Performed by Cassandra Campbell. Chapter 1. It was already June, and the Mislaks still hadn't found a house. Eric wanted guarantees. No lead, asbestos, mold, termites, crime, or trouble. Lacey wanted triangles. Triangles, Eric said, as if he'd never heard of such a thing. They shared the back seat of the realtor's Tahoe, he with his binder of fact sheets organized by street name, she with her sketchbook, outside of their 108th house. Lacey wanted to like it. She wished she could say, "This is the one, I love it," for Eric's sake, because he was getting anxious as their list of houses dwindled from the 20s to the teens. But she just couldn't. This house with its square utilitarian front, so naked and so poor, if Eric settled for it, he'd be miserable by Christmas. They'd had enough of square houses, bland rooms no better than the motels she'd grown up in, and the apartments they lived in together. Houses without memory. They couldn't live that way anymore, with the baby coming. "Triangles," she said, shaping one in the air with her hands. "Gables, dormer windows. Look at that thing. A person could die of actual boredom. What about the one with the bay window?" Eric flicked through his binder. "Bad neighborhood. 2 title loan stores and a used car lot right around the corner." The realtor turned in the front seat. She was on the phone with her office, trying to find another house in the neighborhood acceptable to the Mislaks. Although 3,000 homes were for sale in Greenberg County, many of them in the city of Greenberg itself, this first week of June the Mislaks' requirements limited them to Forester Hills, on the northeast side of town. Lacey, 3 months pregnant and planning her baby's perfect childhood, had mapped the attendance zones of the good schools. Eric drew a circle around his uncle's law office, so he would have no more than a 20-minute commute. The circles crossed only here. Carol Anna Gray, the realtor, had become steadily less blonde over 3 weekends of driving the Mislaks from house to house. Lacey felt sorry for her. She kept taking them to houses that failed one or more of their criteria, usually Eric's. He had grown up in Glen Nautry, Greenberg's finest golf neighborhood. He had standards. "This is my neighborhood," Carol Anna said. "I've lived here all my life." "I'm not buying anything that's walking distance from Austell Road," Eric said. "You're going to have to open up your search." "No," they said together, and Eric turned pages in his binder and said, "What about the blue house around the corner, Lacey? It had those windows you like." Lacey fanned her sketchbook and found her impression of the house. A toadstool with fumes rising from its gills. Smelled of mold. It smelled like a basement apartment with carpeting so dirty it sticks to your feet. She'd spent too much of her life in rooms like that already. "Why don't you just look at this house?" Carol Anna Gray said. Eric and Lacey got out of the Tahoe. "We could look," Eric said. Lacey looked. It was a square, no question. She dug in her purse for the bag of pistachios. In the last 3 months, besieged by morning sickness, she had gained 10 pounds. Though the baby itself was smaller than her thumb, she had to eat all the time, dry, salty food to keep the nausea under control. She wandered to the corner, seeking shade. The neighborhood was exactly right. She loved the way the streets curved. She loved the cul-de-sacs and the big trees, the gardens all flashed with pink and white as the last dogwood flowers withered in June's green heat. She loved the big lawns prettified with gazebos, fountains, swings, wishing wells. A flock of little boys on skateboards flurried through the next intersection. Their voices hung in the air behind them like a flight of bells. She could live here forever, in the right house. Forester Lane curved counterclockwise, an arc of lawns and trees.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?